The smell of turkey and cranberry sauce filled my stepmother Diane's dining room as our family gathered for what had become our annual Thanksgiving tradition of passive-aggressive comments disguised as gratitude. I sat at the far end of the table, the spot reserved for afterthoughts, watching my half-siblings Kyle and Ashley dominate the conversation while Dad beamed with paternal pride. "So Kyle's promotion came with a company car," Diane announced, serving herself another helping of stuffing. "A BMW. Brand new." Dad nodded approvingly. "That's what happens when you work hard and make smart career choices. Kyle's going places." Kyle, 26 and insufferably confident, straightened his designer tie. "The pharmaceutical industry rewards performance, Dad. I doubled my territory's sales this quarter." "Doubled?" Dad repeated like Kyle had cured cancer. "That's my boy." Ashley, fresh out of law school at 24, smiled from her position at Dad's right hand. "And I got the offer from Morrison & Associates. Starting salary is $160, plus bonuses." $160,000, Diane said proudly. "Ashley's going to be making more than most people twice her age." Dad raised his wine glass. "To Kyle and Ashley, proof that the Peterson name means something in this family." I took a sip of water and said nothing. At 31, I'd learned that family dinners went smoother when I didn't compete for attention. "Michael," Diane addressed my other half-brother, "tell everyone about your engagement." Michael, 28 and Dad's clear favorite, practically glowed. Jennifer said yes. "We're thinking a spring wedding. Her family owns hotels, so we'll probably have it at one of their properties." "Hotels?" Dad's eyes lit up. "Which chain?" "Meridian Hospitality Group. 12 properties across the West Coast." Dad whistled appreciatively. "You're marrying into serious money, son. Good choice." The conversation continued around me like I wasn't there. Kyle's promotion. Ashley's law firm. Michael's wealthy fiancé. Each achievement praised and celebrated while I sat quietly eating turkey and counting the minutes until I could politely escape. "So Alex," Dad finally turned to me 45 minutes into dinner, "still working at that, what do you call it, investment thing?" "I manage portfolios," I said simply. "Right." He said it dismissively, like portfolio management was barely a step above unemployment. "Making decent money at it?" "I do fine." Kyle laughed. "Define fine." "Because Ashley's starting salary is probably more than you make in 2 years." "Kyle," I said calmly, "I'm happy for Ashley's success." "That's not an answer," Ashley pointed out. "How much do you actually make?" The table went quiet, waiting for my response. This was their favorite game, cornering me into admitting my financial inferiority so they could feel better about themselves. "I make enough," I said. "Enough for what?" Diane pressed. "You live in that studio apartment, you drive a car older than Ashley, you never go on vacation. That doesn't sound like enough to me." Dad set down his fork. "Alex, we're family. We're concerned about you." "Concerned about what?" "About your future. About your complete lack of ambition." His voice was getting that edge it always got when he was building up to a lecture. "Look at your siblings. Kyle's climbing the corporate ladder. Ashley's starting a legal career. Michael's getting married and building a life. And I'm managing investment portfolios. For other people," Dad said dismissively. "You're making other people rich while you stay poor. Where's your house? Where's your career advancement? Where's your plan for retirement?" The questions hit like punches. Dad had a talent for finding exactly the right words to make me feel small. "I have plans," I said quietly. "What plans?" Ashley demanded. "Because from where we're sitting, it looks like you're treading water while the rest of us swim to shore." Kyle nodded. "Alex, you're 31. Most people have their lives figured out by now. I do have my life figured out." "Really?" Dad's voice was getting louder. "Because I don't see any evidence of that. I see a grown woman living like a college student, working a dead-end job with no prospects for improvement." Diane jumped in. "We're not trying to be mean, Alex. We're trying to help you see reality." "What reality?" "That you're wasting your potential," Dad said bluntly. "You're smart. You could do more with your life if you stopped making excuses and started making efforts." The familiar shame washed over me. No matter how successful I became in my own sphere, family dinners always reduced me to feeling like a disappointing teenager. Maybe Dad continued, it's time to consider what you're actually worth to this family. The room went dead silent. Excuse me, I said. Dad looked around the table, gathering support from his audience. I'm just saying, Kyle brings success stories. Ashley brings achievement. Michael brings strategic family connections. You bring, what exactly? My heart started pounding. I bring myself. And that's not enough anymore. Dad's voice was cold, final. Alex, you're not worth my time. You're not worth any of our time. We're trying to build something here. A family legacy of success and achievement. You're dead weight. The silence stretched out painfully. Maybe, he continued, instead of focusing on you, we should focus on our real children. The ones who are actually contributing something meaningful. His real children. The words echoed in my head. I understand, I said quietly, standing up from the table. Where are you going? Diane asked. Home. Dad made it clear I'm not welcome here. Alex, don't be dramatic, Kyle said. Dad's just trying to motivate you. By telling me I'm not worth his time? By telling you the truth, Ashley said. Maybe it's what you need to hear. I looked around the table one last time. Dad was already turning his attention back to Kyle's promotion story. Diane was clearing my barely touched plate. The Golden children were resuming their performance of perfect family harmony. You're right, I said. I needed to hear the truth. I drove home to my studio apartment. Actually the penthouse of a luxury building I'd bought last year, and spent the weekend thinking about Dad's words. Not worth his time. Focus on real children. Dead weight. Monday morning I called my financial advisor. Good morning, Alex. How was your holiday? Enlightening, James. I need to make some changes to my investment portfolio. What kind of changes? I want to withdraw all investments from Peterson Pension Fund. Immediately. There was a pause. Alex, that's a significant position. Are you sure? The fund has been performing well. I'm sure. Liquidate everything. Can I ask why? This seems sudden. Personal reasons. How quickly can it be done? Given the size of your holdings, it'll take about 24 hours to process. But Alex, this represents nearly 40% of your liquid investments. We're talking about. I know exactly what we're talking about. Process the withdrawal. Understood. I'll have the paperwork ready by tomorrow morning. Tuesday morning, my phone started ringing at 7:15 a.m. Alex. Dad's voice was panicked. Alex, I need to talk to you. Good morning, Dad. Something's wrong with my pension account. The balance shows zero. Zero, Alex. There has to be a mistake. That doesn't sound right. Have you called the fund manager? I tried. They said there was a major investor withdrawal yesterday that affected the fund's liquidity. They had to suspend all accounts temporarily. That's concerning. Concerning? Alex, that's my retirement money. 30 years of contributions and it's gone. I was making coffee in my penthouse kitchen, looking out at the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. I'm sure it's just a technical issue. They said the withdrawal was so large it destabilized the entire fund. Who has that kind of money? What kind of person pulls $40 million out of a pension fund? I paused, my coffee mug halfway to my lips. 40 million. That's a lot of money. Alex, I'm freaking out here. I'm 62 years old. I was supposed to retire in 3 years. This was everything. Dad, have you considered that maybe this is what you needed to hear? Silence. What do you mean? The truth about your situation. Maybe it's time to stop focusing on your retirement and start focusing on rebuilding your relationship with your daughter. Alex, this isn't the time for, wait. His voice changed. Wait a minute. Yesterday you said I needed to hear the truth. I did say that. And now my pension fund collapses because of a major investor withdrawal. Interesting timing. Alex. His voice was barely a whisper. How much money do you have? I walked over to my home office, a beautiful space overlooking the city, and pulled up my investment portfolio on my computer. Currently, including the withdrawal from Peterson Pension Fund, about $230 million. The line went completely silent. 230 million? He finally whispered. Give or take a few million. The markets fluctuate. You were the investor who destroyed my pension fund? I was the investor who withdrew my money from a poorly managed fund that was using my capital to pay other people's retirement benefits. Poor financial structure, really. Your money? Alex, how do you have $40 million invested in anything? I settled into my desk chair, surrounded by monitors showing real-time market data, investment portfolios and business metrics. Dad, remember when I started that investment thing 8 years ago? The job you said was a waste of my business degree. Yes. I wasn't working for an investment firm. I was starting one. Mitchell Capital Management. We specialize in technology investments and emerging markets. Silence. The studio apartment you've been making fun of? It's a penthouse. I bought the building 2 years ago and redesigned the top floor to my specifications. Alex. The old car? It's a classic I restored myself. I also own a Tesla, a Range Rover and a motorcycle, but I drive the Honda to family dinners because I didn't want you to ask uncomfortable questions about my finances. I don't understand. Dad, I've been managing investment portfolios for some of the wealthiest families on the West Coast. I've been advising tech startups that have gone on to billion-dollar valuations. I've been building wealth while you've been criticizing me for not having a real job. The line was quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Alex, he finally said, I called you worthless. You said I wasn't worth your time. That you should focus on your real children. Jesus, Alex. I'm so sorry. Are you sorry because you hurt my feelings or because you found out I'm wealthy? Another long pause. Both, he admitted. But mostly because I hurt my daughter. My real daughter. I am your real daughter, Dad. I know that now. I looked out at the city below, thinking about the years I'd spent building my companies while Dad praised Kyle's pharmaceutical sales and Ashley's law school achievements. I'd wanted his approval so badly that I'd hidden my success, hoping he'd value me for who I was rather than what I'd accomplished. Dad, I want to ask you something. Anything. If I was still working part-time at someone else's investment firm, if I was still living in an actual studio apartment, if I was still driving that Honda because it was all I could afford, would you love me? The question hung in the air. Yes, he said, and his voice broke slightly. Yes, Alex. I would love you. I should love you. I do love you. Even if I wasn't worth your time? Especially then. Alex, what I said was unforgivable. It was hurtful. It was more than hurtful. It was cruel and wrong and... He paused. Alex, can you ever forgive me? I considered the question seriously. Yes. But things need to change. How? You need to treat me like your daughter, not like a disappointment. You need to stop comparing my success to Kyle and Ashley's. And you need to understand that my worth isn't determined by your approval. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't the first time you've dismissed me, Dad. It's just the first time it cost you your retirement fund. It won't happen again. We'll see. I hung up and called James back. James, it's Alex. About the Peterson fund withdrawal. I want to do something with that money. What did you have in mind? Set up a retirement security fund for small pension plans. Something that provides stability for people whose employers don't offer adequate retirement benefits. That's actually brilliant. Very timely, given what happened with Peterson. Include provisions for financial literacy education. People should understand their retirement options before they're 62 and panicking. I'll draft a proposal. This could help thousands of people. Good. And James? Make sure my father is eligible for the program when we launch. Of course. 3 hours later, Kyle called. Alex, what did you do to Dad? What do you mean? He's been crying on the phone with Mom for an hour. Something about his pension and apologizing to you. Mom's freaking out. Dad and I had a conversation about respect. Alex, his retirement account is gone. Gone. 30 years of savings and it's all gone. Kyle, I know you care about Dad, but this is between him and me. No, it's between him and whoever destroyed his pension fund. Alex, we need to help him. Family sticks together. The irony was striking. Family sticks together? Yes. Dad made a mistake, but he's still our father. We can't let him lose everything. Kyle, where was this family solidarity on Thursday when Dad told me I wasn't worth his time? Silence. Where was it when he said I wasn't his real daughter? Alex, he didn't mean that. He said it in front of the entire family. Nobody defended me. Nobody told him he was wrong. You all just sat there while he told me I was worthless. We should have said something. Yes, you should have. Kyle was quiet for a moment. Alex, what can we do to fix this? You can start by apologizing. All of you. I'm sorry. We're all sorry. And you can accept that I might have resources none of you know about. What do you mean? I mean, maybe the family failure isn't actually failing. Ashley called that evening. Alex, Kyle told me about Dad's pension. This is horrible. It is unfortunate. Alex, we need to help him. I know you don't make much, but maybe we could all chip in. Ashley, stop. Stop what? Stop assuming you know what I make. Stop assuming I need your help to help Dad. I'm just trying to. You're trying to manage a situation you don't understand. My phone beeped with an incoming call. I glanced at the caller ID. Dad. Ashley, I need to take this call. Alex, Dad's voice was shaky. I've been thinking about our conversation. And? You asked if I'd love you even if you were struggling financially. I did. The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. Rich or poor, successful or struggling, you're my daughter and I love you. Thank you for saying that. But Alex, I need to ask, did you have something to do with what happened to my pension? I looked around my penthouse office with its bank of monitors showing my various investments and business ventures. On one screen, I could see the Peterson Pension Fund statement showing my withdrawal. On another, the preliminary plans for the retirement security fund that would replace it. Dad, what would you say if I told you I had the power to fix your pension problem? I'd say that's impossible. We're talking about $40 million. What if it wasn't impossible? Long pause. Alex, how much money do you actually have? I pulled up my net worth statement on the computer. Currently, about $260 million. The line went dead. I waited 30 seconds, then called him back. Dad? Are you there? 260 million? His voice was barely audible. Plus or minus. I stopped counting exactly at the $250 million mark. Alex, how? I started Mitchell Capital Management 8 years ago with $50,000 I'd saved. I focused on technology investments, particularly companies developing financial software. I got lucky with a few early-stage investments that went very well. How well? One company I invested $100,000 in went public last year. My stake is now worth $47 million. Silence. Dad, the Peterson Pension Fund wasn't destroyed. It was restructured. I withdrew my investment because the fund was poorly managed and using high-value investors like me to subsidize smaller accounts. It wasn't sustainable. You were keeping the whole fund afloat? Essentially. My investment represented 60% of their total assets under management. Jesus. But here's the good news. I'm launching a new retirement security fund specifically for people in your situation. Better management, lower fees, more transparency. Alex, I don't understand any of this. You don't need to understand it, Dad. You just need to know that I'm taking care of it. You're taking care of my retirement? I'm taking care of my father's retirement. Because despite what you said on Thursday, you are my father and I love you. I could hear him crying on the other end of the line. Alex, I'm so sorry. What I said was unforgivable. It was hurtful. But not unforgivable. How can you not hate me? Because hating you wouldn't accomplish anything productive. Building a better retirement fund for you and people like you? That accomplishes something. I don't deserve this. No, you don't. But I'm doing it anyway. We talked for another hour. I explained my businesses, my investments, my plans for the retirement fund. I told him about the technology companies I'd helped launch, the startups I'd advised, the portfolio management strategies that had made me wealthy before I was 30. Most importantly, I told him why I'd hidden it all. I wanted to know if you'd love me without knowing my net worth. I wanted to know if you'd be proud of me as a person, not just as a success story. And I failed that test. Spectacularly. Can I retake it? Yes. But Dad, no more comparing me to Kyle and Ashley. No more assumptions about my financial situation. And no more suggesting I'm not worth your time. Never again. I promise. Good. Because you're going to want me around for Sunday dinners. Why? Because I bought a house in your neighborhood last month. I'm moving in next week. You bought a house? I bought the house next door to yours. I figured it was time to be closer to family. The Morrison estate? Alex, that place sold for $3.7 million. 3.9 actually. But it has good bones. Dad started laughing, real laughter, not the nervous kind. What's funny? I've been lecturing you about real estate investment while you've been buying mansions next door. Not a mansion. Just a house with good schools nearby. I'm thinking about adopting. Adopting? A child, Dad. Your grandchild. I've been working with an agency for 6 months. The line went quiet again. I'm going to be a grandfather? If the adoption goes through, yes. I wanted to tell you at Thanksgiving, but I was too busy telling you weren't worth my time. Yeah. Alex, I'm the worst father in history. You're not the worst. He's human. Humans make mistakes. How do I fix this? Start by showing up. When I move into the new house, help me paint the nursery. When the adoption goes through, help me figure out how to be a parent. Be excited about your grandchild instead of worried about my net worth. I can do that. And Dad? Yes. Sunday dinners at my place from now on. I'm a better cook than Diane. He laughed. Deal. 6 months later, I moved into my new house with my adopted daughter Emma, a beautiful 5-year-old who'd been waiting for a family for 2 years. Dad spent every Saturday helping me turn the spare bedroom into a princess palace, complete with a reading nook and art station. The Peterson pension fund crisis made local news, but the story focused on the innovative retirement security fund that replaced it, providing better benefits for working families across the region. Dad's retirement was not only restored but improved. And more importantly, he learned the difference between loving conditionally and loving completely. At our first Sunday dinner in my new house, with Emma chattering excitedly about her new school and Dad helping her color while Ashley and Kyle actually listened to my stories about work, I realized something important. Sometimes the best way to teach people your worth isn't by demanding their respect. It's by withdrawing your support until they realize what they've lost. Then, when they've learned the lesson, you give them something better than they had before. That's what family does. Especially when, they're learning to be a family for the first time.